So the SPCA says there's been more pets being abandoned and returned due to the escalating costs of living. It's a huge pleasure to welcome Senior Inspector from the National Council of the SPCA. It's Jaco Pieterse who joins us. And Jaco, morning to you. A huge pleasure talking to you. This is terribly sad when you're hearing a situation of animals being returned. Are you seeing more animals coming to your organisation because people can't afford to look after them?
Unfortunately, we do see the rise of animals being brought into the SPCA because people can't afford to look after them due to high living costs these days. I don't know if you know, but we're the only animal welfare organisation in South Africa that is a statute body in terms of the Parliament Act. And in terms of that Act, we may not refuse to admit any animals. So by law, we have to accept each and every animal that's been brought to our doorstep.
And I suppose the issue here is going to be that, as you say, you have to accept these animals. And I'm sure the SPCA is obviously wanting to accept and look after animals, but you aren't exactly running on an infinite budget either. You guys need to be paying for these animals.
That's correct. We are a non-profit organisation. We solely rely on public donations. We don't receive government funding at all. So yes, we do rely on the public. And with the rising prices these days, people don't have extra cash to donate to the SPCA, making it hard for us as well.
The cost of animal food, I imagine, but it's not just dogs and cats. I mean, you and I are talking about domestic pets, but we know the SPCA looks after horses, they look after farm animals, and we've seen these stories in the past. Food must be getting more expensive for you guys as well. Are you at any point in a crisis when it comes to looking after the animals?
Fortunately, there is a lot of food companies donating food towards the different SPCAs throughout the country, but not all the SPCAs are that lucky. We have unfortunately closed down 4 SPCAs already this past year.
Where is that, if you happen to know roughly?
One is the Zeerust SPCA Northwest, the Breeda Valley SPCA in Worcester, Western Cape, and then we've also closed down the Sani SPCA, which became a branch of the Umgeni SPCA. And the Harry Smith SPCA also closed down due to lack of funds.
Are we seeing these SPCAs, the ones you mentioned that have closed down, and the ones perhaps struggling in poorer areas because poor communities can't afford to look after their animals?
Yes, it's normally the smaller towns where they struggle more, because in Joburg, where the most SPCAs are and the highest population, at least there's bigger companies, more wealthier people to support the SPCAs. So it's more your faraway SPCAs that struggle the most.
It sounds horrible when you start talking about, and you mentioned quite rightly, the high cost of living and what people are cutting back on, that an animal, a pet, a dog, your cat, your hamster, whatever it might be, is something that people are willing to give up. Do you think it's an easy get out, or people are truly struggling to look after their pets?
Well, with my experience, there are people that really can't afford to look after that animal, so it is difficult. But then you get people that have unsterilized animals, the animals breed and they can't find homes for the animals, so they end up at the SPCA, making it our problem. So there are various reasons. Sometimes you get people wanting to be in the fashion trade, if I can call it as such, where the neighbors get a new Rottweiler, so they also want a Rottweiler now. So let's get rid of our Boerboel and we're going to get a Rottweiler. So people tend to do that as well.
Someone watching at the moment perhaps might be in a position, Jaco, where they're thinking, we might be that family that has to return our pets. As a final question to you, is it the best solution to bring the animal to the SPCA, or should people rather try and hang on and find the money to look after their own pets?
We urge people, if they can't look after their animals, and we're talking about any animal, bring it to the SPCA. We will never say no to taking that animal. The problem is, if you think you're going to find it a better home or a good home somewhere else, the problem is other people also can't afford to look after that animal, and that people might dump the animal next to the road, which is far worse than ending up at the SPCA.
It's a very sad issue, but at least there's something of an alternative. Jaco, a huge pleasure having you, and thank you very much. Jaco Pieterse, SPCA's Senior Inspector, and talking about families returning their animals or dropping them off at the SPCA.
News that moves. eNCA.com.